extraordinary diversity of life on Earth reveals itself in a stunning variety of shapes and colors that paint a unique picture of our planet. Over the eons, plants and animals have evolved to interact with each other in an exquisite balance to form the great tree of life. Our own survival depends on these different forms of life, from the tiniest to the very largest. Biodiversity provides natural services that allow different forms of life to breathe, eat, and reproduce. It regulates the planet's climate and purifies its soil and water. This extraordinary diversity of species, which interact in equilibrium in Earth's various ecosystems, is the very foundation of everything in our world. But unchecked exploitation of the Earth's resources is now threatening this balance.
Biodiversity is not just this abstract concept in halls of science. It's the living underpinning of our lives. And I think in 100 or 200 years, when lots of our geopolitical melodramas have been forgotten, I actually think the world is going to judge this moment that we're in now very much on how we grappled with this issue. So it's exciting to be a part of it at the same time.
The first forms of life arose in the oceans about 3.8 billion years ago. Through natural selection, the driver of evolution, a multitude of species came into existence, forming the basis of the diversity of life as we know it today. But this biodiversity is now threatened. If nothing is done to correct the situation, between 1/3 and 1/2 of all living species could disappear by the end of the century. The oceans are the largest ecosystem on Earth, but our exploitation of their resources is far beyond their ability to regenerate.
The fishing techniques we use today are like warfare, a war we are waging against fish.
It is estimated that 87% of the Earth's oceans are overexploited or exploited to their limits by the fishing industry.
The way fisheries are controlled out here in the open sea, it's no man's land. It's everyone take all. Everything is for free.
The spectacular growth of industrialized fishing has caused an alarming decline in fish stocks, a decline that threatens the very survival of the fishing industry.
If we would be to take all the subsidies to the fishing fleets, most of those fleets would stop the day after.
In recent decades, stocks of large fish in the world's oceans have plummeted by 90%. These large predators are essential to the balance of marine ecosystems.
All the data says we have a big, serious crisis. But what I like to say is that extinction is only inevitable if you watch it on TV.
For several years, the oceanographic schooner Sedna 4 has crisscrossed the Earth's oceans. Mission leader, Jean Lemire.
We have embarked on a 3-year trip around the world to assess the state of biodiversity. Our mission, 1,000 days for the planet, will allow us to meet with scientists who dedicate their lives to the comprehension of what is critically at stake regarding our environment.
The Sedna heads to Costa Rica in Central America, where the economy depends in large part on the extraordinary biodiversity of its national parks. Every year, tourists from around the world come here to get in touch with nature. The magnificent beach of Playa Grande in the Guanacaste region receives its share of tourists. But come nightfall, they give way to biologists and volunteers. Tonight, like every winter night, the beach belongs to one of the ocean's oldest creatures, the leatherback turtle. At high tide, this female has come to lay her eggs, as her ancestors have done for nearly 100 million years.
We spent 20 years, the best years of our lives, saving these turtles, right?
Biologists James Spatilla and Frank Palladino founded the Leatherback Trust, an organization dedicated to saving Pacific leatherback turtles.
We've been protecting every nest on the beach, protecting all the turtles, producing lots of hatchlings. They take 15, 20 years to mature. We've been doing this 20 years, so we're starting to see new turtles coming.
It is estimated that 60% of leatherback turtles have disappeared in the past 30 years.
She looks to be about 145 centimeters long, probably around 18 to 20 years of age, and she's finished nesting. She's now in the process of early bearing, but you can see how delicately she's using her hands to pat the sand down and to pack it so that the eggs are in a nice location, and then she will start to camouflage and cover all around here. And in 60 days, hopefully at this point, some turtles will dig their way up and out and head out back out to the ocean. In 1980, there was over 100,000 females nesting in the Pacific alone. Now we estimate there's only about 1,500 to 3,000, and that's since 1980. And the only thing that has changed is the impact that humans have had on them. We take away the beaches because we develop them to have our recreation and hotels and so on, so they can't reproduce on their natal beaches anymore. We changed our fishing practices in the 80s. Now we have long lines, which by accidental bycatch will kill turtles, and the estimates are that about 20,000 turtles a year. And the third thing we did was we harvested their eggs.
According to popular belief, these eggs have aphrodisiac properties, creating a black market that thrives even today.
In California, especially along the Pacific, they have swarms of jellyfish, and they say, we never had swarms of jellyfish before. And I tell them, you've taken the major predators of jellyfish out of the ocean. Where there used to be 100,000, now there's only 1,500. And each of those turtles would eat an estimate of 90 kilograms of jellyfish a day. And not only do those jellyfish have an impact that we have to close the beach because you're going to get stung, but they eat the little fish in the ocean that grow up into the big fish that we like to catch and eat. So the more jellyfish you have, the more problems there is also. So when you say, are leatherbacks important to save? I say, well, there's a good example for you. Right here on the tag, it tells you what time she came up, when she started digging, when she's covering. She did lay 49 eggs. We know what season that she has come in. There is a cohort of 4 or 5 females that have nested here for 4 different seasons, and it's almost 20 years apart from the first time we've seen them to this time. So we know an awful lot about the demographics of these turtles.
Of the 7 turtle species living in our oceans, 6 are on the red list of threatened or vulnerable species. But turtles are not the only members of this unenviable list. Another emblem of our oceans has a troubled coexistence with humans: the shark. Sharks have existed in our oceans for over 400 million years. Yet today, about a third of the world's species of sharks and rays are threatened with extinction, primarily because of overfishing. Large ocean predators, which play an essential role in maintaining balance in our ecosystems, are on the losing side of decades of exploitation.
There are recent scientific publications that say that, in general, all marine predators have declined 90% in the last 50 years. So, you know, it's not looking good.
Biologist Randall Arauz is internationally recognized for his efforts to protect Costa Rica's turtle and shark populations. As an activist, he uses every means at his disposal to raise awareness of the catastrophic decline of turtles and sharks around the world. Through protests, school programs, and negotiating with fishermen, Randall tries to educate the public about the importance of large predators in ecosystems. And he wages an unrelenting war against long-line fishers who indiscriminately target large fish species.
A friend of mine was lucky enough and he was able to get a job on one of these longline boats as a cook. So when he got the job, he told me. So we put that camera on the boat with my friend, and he was acting like it was a family video. And sure enough, he brought video of leatherback sea turtles on the long lines, sea lions on the long lines, molas, all sorts of wildlife. So this is the first time we're getting a glimpse of what is occurring with the longline fishery, the bycatch problem that it constitutes. And at the very end of the video, they pull up a shark, they hack off the fin, and they throw the shark back into the water. And I was just stunned. Like, what was that? What just happened?
What Randall had just witnessed for the first time was the cruel practice of shark finning. In its most barbaric form, the shark is dragged onto the boat, where the fishers hack off its fins and tail. They then throw the shark back to sea, often still alive. Unable to swim, it dies a slow death by suffocation. These images sparked an outcry against this practice.
First of all, it's cruel. It's a cruel, painful death for these magnificent animals. From a more technical point of view, it's unsustainable. They're wiping out marine biodiversity so that a culture on the other side of the world can have their shark fin soup.
Shark fins represent only about 5% of the animal's body mass, but they can fetch up to $400 per kilogram, making them one of the most valuable marine products in the world. It is estimated that between 40 and 70 million sharks are killed every year for this controversial market. The Sedna stops on the island of Fayal in the middle of the Atlantic. Sitting astride the mid-Atlantic ridge, the Azores archipelago is the result of 20 million years of volcanic activity. These spectacular islands, which emerged from the ocean only 5 million years ago, are still changing under the effects of volcanism and shifts in the three major tectonic plates that meet here. Deep in the ocean, seamounts rise toward the surface, causing an upwelling of ocean currents. This, in turn, sustains an abundance of marine life. The exceptional richness of these waters attracts many different species.
The most important fishing grounds in the whole of the Azores. And you have these two major...
Pedro Afonso, a biologist at the University of the Azores, works with a team of scientists to better understand the role of large predators in ecosystems.
Which means that it's probably the time...
A shark specialist, he has earned the trust of local fishers. Thanks to the long-standing relationships Afonso has developed, the Sedna's mission leader, Jean Lemire, is allowed to experience life aboard a long liner. These fishing boats are frequently portrayed as the source of all evil.
Our old ideas of the sea and products of the sea are a thing of the past. The fishing techniques we use today are like warfare, a war we are waging against fish.
This long liner alone will cast nearly 100 kilometers of line, containing thousands of baited hooks. The line is reeled in every 12 hours over the next 3 weeks. This represents over 40 periods of intensive fishing, regardless of conditions. Although this fishing technique is not highly selective, the fishers are primarily seeking swordfish, a large predator that fetches good prices. Fishing boats have operated in these rich waters for years. But despite the use of ever more effective fishing techniques, catches are declining. Today, far fewer swordfish and other large fish are caught in the waters off the Azores. And it's the same around the world. Yet fishing pressure today is greater than ever. The largest fish are preserved on ice to supply the insatiable market for fresh fish. Since a fishing trip lasts at least 3 weeks, the fish sold in supermarkets have often been caught a month earlier. Current regulations specify a minimum catch size for swordfish. Legally, smaller fish must be thrown back. But in general, these young swordfish are cleaned and frozen to be sold later. This practice is illegal. Biologist Gonzalo Grassa often serves as a scientific observer on fishing boats.
How can we avoid that situation where, you know, they are catching fish that are too small? That's probably difficult, right?
Yeah. Well, one of the ways can be increase the size of the hook, and there are several kinds of hooks. There are some twisted, and well, but when they use another kind of hook, they don't catch so many fish, and they prefer to catch a little bit more fish, but smaller than no fish.
Fishermen dispute this regulation on fish size. They contend that since most of the young swordfish are already dead when they haul them aboard, they don't see why they should be forced to throw them back. With no one enforcing the regulation, young swordfish continue to be caught.
Long lining is fishing at an industrial scale. It's a perfect example of everything that's wrong with fishing. It's a world unto itself, where companies do practically whatever they like. It's like a city without a police force that's controlled by gangs and mobsters. It's incredible.
The major decline in swordfish stocks has given rise to a new market, shark fishing. Long viewed merely as accidental catches, what fishermen call bycatch, sharks were thrown back because of their low market value. But the expansion of the lucrative shark fin market has changed all that.
The fishery, at least in the Atlantic, shifted from a swordfish fishery to a blue shark and swordfish fishery. And actually nowadays the European fleet depends on the blue shark to make a living.
The commercial fishing industry now relies heavily on the significant revenue earned from shark fins. Sharks are no longer considered bycatch, and fishers are directly targeting the blue shark, an abundant species in oceans all over the world, to compensate for lower revenues from declining fish stocks. Unlike swordfish, most sharks are still very much alive when they are hauled aboard. But the size of the animal does not appear to be a factor for sharks. Even the young ones end up in the ship's hold.
The way fisheries are controlled out here in the open sea, it's no man's land. It's everyone take all. Everything is for free. And that isn't changing yet. And I think that is something that many countries have to work on. The United States, the Economic Union, Australia, which is a big fishing nation. And, you know, we need to get together and change the way fishery policy is established.
From a regulatory standpoint, there is a huge difference between the kind of shark fishing done on this longliner and finning, the practice of removing only the shark's fins before throwing the animal back to sea. Horrific images of finning have been shown around the world, and public opinion has turned against this cruel practice. More and more countries now ban shark finning.
Our campaigns have had major impact in Costa Rica. For instance, we were able to create laws against shark finning. There's a real famous law now that you can only allow sharks to be brought to port if they have the fin attached to the body. And this law is known as the Costa Rican anti-shark finning law. And right now we have 6 countries following this law: Ecuador, Colombia, El Salvador, the United States. And right now in the Economic Union, there are discussions to also impose this law. You must bring the shark with the fin attached. And shark finners say, oh, you can't do that, because if the shark is frozen, you can't take the fin off. And we have proven in Costa Rica that it is all a lie. You can bring sharks frozen to port, you can remove the fin, it can be done. Whoever says it can't be done is because they're shark finning and it's very uncomfortable for them to do it any other way. When we started these campaigns, 400 foreign longline boats from Taiwan would land their products in Costa Rica every year. Now we're down to 70 or 80. Unfortunately, I don't think we can really call it a victory until we've pushed them out of Central America and hopefully out of the Eastern Tropical Pacific.
Faced with increasing public pressure, shark fishers must now keep the entire body of the shark, which is frozen and sold. This major change to the regulations means that most of the fish is now utilized. In practical terms, this kind of shark fishing is completely legal.
Before, the meat of blue shark was considered to be useless. Now we have a market to carry this meat, this protein, and distribute it as a wide variety of products, fish byproducts, from fish sticks to fish meal.
Blue shark carcasses and their precious fins are now propping up an industry that can no longer support itself because of its own past abuses. But what are the long-term consequences of intensive fishing on blue shark populations?
The international agencies say that stocks vary between very overexploited in the Mediterranean Sea, for example, to intensively exploited in the Atlantic Ocean. So it's not the most threatened shark population in the globe, for sure, but there are concerns as to the point at which it can withstand the current levels of exploitation.
The expansion of industrial fishing is like a red stain spreading over the world. It starts in Western Europe, and Russia plays an important role, as does North America. It then spreads to the African coasts, and then to the South Atlantic and South Pacific. It spreads like a skin disease. And this wave, this red tide, gets to the Antarctic, and it stops, because it can't go any further. There's no future in fishing. Too many restrictions, and the finger is always pointed at us. No matter what we do, it's always our fault. So I don't see much of a future in it, especially shark fishing. No more sharks, no more fishing. All that's left is to break the ships apart and burn them.
The fishing fleets have grown in the past decades dependent on subsidies from governments. That is, the real cost involved in sending a fishing vessel out there with all the costs in fuel, in gear, in paying the crewmen, etc., is just not overturned by the real profit that the catch is going to make in the market. And the only reason why that fleet or that particular vessel is doing its everyday fishing is because it gets subsidies from all of us taxpayers to lower the cost of those items.
The destruction of marine ecosystems is being financed in part by government subsidies, amounting to anywhere from $20 to $30 billion a year. Yet it is completely conceivable that this money could be used to remove boats from the fishing fleet and retrain the fishermen. This would result in a smaller fishery that is sustainable and profitable.
If we would be to take all the subsidies to the fishing fleets all over the world, and in particular in developed countries, most of those fleets would stop the day after.
If the fishing industry is committing suicide, we must prevent that. But then we should declare it incompetent, if you will. If a system is not working, we should take charge of it, not let it spontaneously self-destruct. In the Mediterranean, fishing is banned for 2 months, and fishermen are compensated. Why don't Portugal and Spain do like Italy? Why not stop for 2 months in the summer? The fishing authorities know very well what goes on in the Mediterranean. We could protect our species like they do. And they don't even have quotas. But they make us throw fish under 25 kilos back to sea. Italy's part of Europe, isn't it? If the fish is alive, we remove the hook and return it to the water. If it's caught by the belly, we use it for bait. But if it's dead, what can we do? Bring it back to life? Of course not. So we keep it. It means more income, even if we're not allowed to keep it. We tell them that it was already dead, but they don't care. They say it's illegal, that they can't tell for sure if it was dead or not. And they fine us anyway.
The businessmen are in charge of establishing the policy. And of course, their policy is always considering their own pockets. What we need is fisheries directed with the public interest, with science in mind. How many boats can fish this resource? When should we stop fishing? Where should we not fish? And even if it hurts somebody's pocket, we must stop fishing.
How am I supposed to make a living? Offer me a good job and I'll stop. Offer me a job that lets me come home at night and I'll take it.
The time spent on board with these fishermen was a troubling experience. It is difficult not to question the morality of this new market for shark flesh. At the current market price, fishermen only get less than $1 a kilo, a tiny fraction of the price obtained for shark fins. At this price, is it a real and profitable market, or is it a way to skirt around the new laws adopted by numerous countries to forbid finning?
The good relation between fishermen and scientists is crucial to solve this big challenge we have in minds. First of all, we already talked about how important it is to get this crucial data. But there's no way you're going to get this crucial data without the collaboration between, the active collaboration between these two agents, because many times it's the fishermen that allow you to have access to those data. So that is absolutely crucial to start with. Secondly, the fishermen themselves have a lot of knowledge that very often is on the base of the scientific knowledge itself. So you will never get that knowledge if there is no trust between those two actors. So that needs to be part of the deal.
Our oceans have been patient. They have been patient with us. But now, the demand is becoming increasingly unrealistic. It's not hard to imagine a day when fishing will be mostly artisanal. There will be fewer fishermen because they won't be needed. Fish will be a luxury item, something you pay a premium for to eat on special occasions like a Christmas turkey.
The decline of fish stocks in our oceans has already begun. And if nothing is done to correct the situation quickly, this decline could reach alarming proportions. Globally, nearly 1 billion people depend on fish as their primary source of protein. So we must rethink our relationship with the seafood products we consume. Shark research is a relatively new field, and scientists will have to intensify their efforts to better understand the ecology of large predators if they are to propose effective conservation measures. Pedro Afonso and his team are trying to unravel the mysteries of the migration routes used by the blue shark.
We know where are the juvenile grounds. There's also some good evidence about where preferred mating grounds are located, but it is the pupping grounds that are still very elusive to science. We suspect that the Azores can be an area of increased pupping opportunities, only in a particular time of the year, which happens to be right now.
The Sedna, a former fishing vessel herself, will be the scientific vessel for this occasion. The goal of this mission, to capture a gestating female blue shark.
There is an era of research on marine ecology and behavior before the advent of electronic tagging and another one after the advent of electronic tagging. The capacity of these devices to open windows into the life of these animals and into the significance of particular habitats is just too precious for us to leave it behind.
Using satellite transmitters, scientists are able to gather an impressive amount of essential data, such as time and depth of dives, information about the physical environment, and, of course, detailed records of an animal's movement patterns. Lady Luck smiles upon the scientists. They have just captured a female blue shark, but they must act quickly.
Vertebrates in general have this thing called the tonic immobility reflex, which basically is when you're turned upside down, you become numb. And they get really amenable to work with. And we think that they also get a decreased pain function. We do that to promote natural anesthesia.
The satellite beacon is attached to the shark's dorsal fin. Every time the animal surfaces, the emitter will send the data stored in its internal memory to the satellite.
Of course, there's some injury inflicted into the animal, but it's minimal injury compared to the types of injury that blue sharks take during their lives.
Despite the size of this female, the scientists can't be certain that it is currently gestated. Sharks are viviparous, meaning that the embryos develop inside the female.
Look!
Oh yeah.
Look!
Oh yeah.
Baby shark, right here. Look at this. You asked for pregnant female. That's...
We need to be fast now.
Okay.
You want to be fast. You want to be fast.
Here.
Oh yeah, again. Females have this reflex. When they're close to be ready to deliver, if they're in life-threatening situations like this, they will try to get the babies out, even if it's a bit early, because they will survive, whereas she might not. So, well, that's a defense. She needs some water flowing.
Okay.
Okay. It's the kind of experience that provokes these contradictory feelings, right? On one hand, you're witnessing a rare event that actually tells you some very important information for the conservation of the species you're working with. On the other hand, we were a bit stressed as well because we didn't want to put stress in mom and on the little pups. The pups were not fully sized, which is about 40 centimeters. I would say those pups would be around 35 centimeters. But as we saw, the pups took probably, 3 to 4 seconds after an initial moment of confusion to swim away in a very steady way.
There you go. All right. All right.
The temporary captivity required to install the satellite tag will not harm this female, which now regains its freedom. The data collected by the transmitter will give scientists a better understanding of the shark's migration routes and help to better protect the species on fishing grounds, especially during this critical period of reproduction. Over the course of hundreds of millions of years, sharks have lived through every major extinction event the Earth has experienced. Yet, in only a few decades' time, humanity has jeopardized the survival of the ocean's greatest predator. And it is not alone.
You have an opportunity to see a dinosaur come out of the ocean and do all these very intricate behaviors. And I don't think there's anybody who ever walks away from this beach after seeing this experience that hasn't been awed. This is probably one of the magnificent sights that you'll see in nature. As adults, they don't have a predator, so they're very long-lived, but now they weren't living long enough to replace themselves. What I mean by that is each turtle comes up and let's say in a really good year they lay 10 nests of 65 eggs. That means they have laid 650 eggs. You would think that's a lot, but only about half of those eggs hatch. So that means there's 325 hatchlings. And now our data over the 20 years is showing that for 1,000 hatchlings that come up out of the ground, only one returns about 15 years later to start laying eggs. That means they have a 1 in 1,000 chance. So those 325 turtles that hatched in one season, that's not even replacing her. So she has to come back 3 years later, lay again. That's another 325. It still has not replaced. Has to come back in another 3 years, 9 years, or maybe 10, 11 total, because it's 3 to 4 years that they return. You finally have replaced the female, but you haven't replaced the male. So it takes a long time for these turtles to replace themselves.
This leatherback turtle now returns to the sea, leaving her precious eggs behind, thus perpetuating a natural cycle hundreds of millions of years old.
We have a national park with having a foundation raising donations, trained the local people, educated them, everything's great, and now climate change comes, just what we need. The problem for these turtles in climate change is that they don't have sex chromosomes, and the sex of the turtle depends upon the temperature of incubation. So at 29.5 degrees in a nest, you get about 50-50 male and female. 29, you'd get all male turtles. Above 30 degrees, you get all female turtles. And when you get up towards 34 degrees, they all start dying. It gets too hot. So the beach here is generally, by December, on a dry year, is running 30, 31 degrees. So we're producing females. And the projections are for climate change. As the Earth warms from global warming, this area of Costa Rica will get warmer and drier. Many areas get wetter, but this gets warmer and drier. Therefore, this beach will get hotter. And we will have to do some management, or we will, one, produce all female turtles, or second, they will all die.
Conservation measures alone are no longer enough to save the Pacific leatherback turtle. Soon, it will be necessary to artificially control the egg's incubation temperature to ensure the survival of the species. The tragic fate of the leatherback turtle is a prime example of the uneasy coexistence between humanity and the other forms of life on this planet.
We talk about sharks are going extinct, turtles are going extinct, how important they are for the ecosystem, and we go to meetings and we go to conventions. So all this talk and talk and talk, but no action. Scientists are saying we have another 40 or 50 years before it's all depleted. In our lifetime, we may see this big dramatic change, and let's hope we can stop it. We need everybody's help.
I am a near-term pessimist and a long-term optimist. Now, in reality, all the data says we have a big, serious crisis. But what I like to say is that extinction is only inevitable if you watch it on TV.
We need a more sustainable management of global fishing in the world. And that might take the exploitation of lower trophic chain resources, which can still give good protein to people and release a little bit our pressure on the top levels. So balanced harvesting is becoming a major hope in the fisheries science arena.
The people working on climate change, they understand. If we add acidification to the equation, it's the apocalypse. Everybody loses. And in 100 years, there are no fisheries anywhere. It's unthinkable. Because if we can't solve this problem at the beginning of the century, there won't be a fishery at the end of the century.
We are the passive witnesses to our own decline, but we are also the species that hold the solutions to the problems of our environment. The sustainable development of the Earth's resources is possible, and it is perhaps our only hope.
The conservation challenges are considerable, but it's not too late to act. Of all species, humans have benefited most from the natural laws of evolution, and we must show restraint and control in exploiting the Earth's resources. Is it not time for us to take another look at our relationship with nature if we are to preserve the extraordinary biodiversity that supports life?
We're headed to Costa Rica in Central America, a country that is known for its extraordinary biodiversity. In fact, over 25% of the land is now protected, and tourists from around the world come to visit the country to enjoy its wonderful ecology.
Framed by the Caribbean to the east and the Pacific to the west, Costa Rica is located between Nicaragua and Panama. Its lush forests are home to one of the last big cats of the Americas, the jaguar. This mythical animal has suffered from habitat fragmentation and the continual reduction of its hunting territory. The jaguar's troubled coexistence with humans now threatens the very future of the species. The team heads to the highlands of Costa Rica, to a private reserve in the Talamanca region. In this protected area, scientists can study the jaguar's behavior. The farm also hosts Aboriginal families who are rediscovering their roots and an old harmony with nature. The team is meeting with scientists Jan Schipper and Jose Gonzalez of the Sierra to Sea Institute. Jose is a jaguar specialist and knows the reserve very well.
Jaguar is probably one of the most amazing animals in America. This is one of the last big predators we have. Only pumas share the same, like the same ecology and niche. It's their third largest cat in the world. And well, it can go from 30 kilos up to 100, 120. They can live around in the wild around 20 years. There's some cases reported of, like longer. But usually they die before because they get old and it's difficult for them to hunt.
Jaguars exist as a symbol for wild, as a symbol that we still have places where big predators can exist and prey base can exist.
Genetic studies have shown that jaguars actually belong to a single family, extending from Argentina to Mexico. However, as forests continue to shrink, jaguar populations are increasingly confined to isolated pockets, small areas that are often not connected by migration corridors.
We have identified so far in the farm 12 different individuals. It's a big concentration because there's no hunting, there's a good prey base, we have all the mammal assemblage, entire complete mammal assemblage. And so this is probably a shelter, a good shelter for them. So it's what we call in population biology a source population. So animals, breed here, produce here, and they move out and colonize other areas. So right now we're going to where we set up the trap and one snare and a couple camera traps. It's in the middle of the forest and the road is not very good, so it's gonna take a little while and hopefully not many raining. It's pretty hard to drive. Whoa. We saw this morning some fresh tracks, so I think we have really good chances, but obviously these are really, really smart animals, so well, you never know, it's a matter of luck. Hopefully we'll get the animal.
The biologists hope to capture a jaguar. They want to install a satellite transmitter that would tell them about how the jaguars make use of their territory.
We use some pheromones to attract the animals, and we set them in these small sticks all the way, so like pointing at the trap.
And you can see the two cameras right over here.
Oh yeah, yeah, two cameras, two here and here, and this is the trap. So it has a little mechanism like right in the bottom. It's just like a small table. If the animal steps on it, this gate just falls down. Yep. We're gonna check it right now just to see if it's working fine. Ay, ay, ay.
These little cameras here detect heat and motion. So anytime something warm passes in front of the camera, it will take a picture. These will work day and night, and they can take video and still images. Okay, so we've got a couple of different kinds of baits here to choose from. What we put on this one so far is the fat cat predator bait. These are pheromones mixed with some urine and other things that we can use to try and bring the cat in.
And the cats like them. The jaguars
Well, we don't know if they like it, but they're attracted to it. This attracts a lot of other things too. We don't just get cats, we'll get bees, as you can see, insects, butterflies are very attracted to this.
Even other mammals like tapirs,
Other mammals.
Yeah. It's something really different and they're not used to these strong smells. So it's just something to attract animals in general.
Yeah. Okay, what we're going to do now is just take a little bit of this other pheromone, which has a little bit more scent to it. It's a little bit stronger. And we're going to apply it here to the side of the tree. This way we can disperse the scent across the trail a little bit better. I can use a stick to sort of put it wherever I want, but this moss holds the scent nicely, even if it rains. So I can just take a little bit of this and just apply it on to the side of here and spread it out just a little bit.
Okay. So I think we're gonna use this place here. It's narrow, we can close it. There's a couple bakery entrances around. I think it's gonna be perfect.
This is to create a natural path for him.
Natural path, yeah. He's not gonna jump over there. He's just looking for the easiest way. So, Jose, what are the chances that we catch one? I think we have great chances. The place is great. I mean, this road, it's used lots of time by the jaguars and pumas. The place is really safe. There's only one path, so I think we have great chances. It's a great place, not harm for the animal, so it's probably fine.
With jaguars, it's like a game of hide and seek. Once you are there, you need to erase all traces because they can detect us from afar. They are very cunning animals.
During his years tracking jaguars of the reserve, Jose has managed to photo-identify many animals. He can now recognize them by the different pigmentation patterns of their fur. Approximately 6% of jaguars are melanistic, or all black. These are often called panthers. Cameras installed on trees allow biologists to photograph other animals of the forest as well, such as pumas or even the jaguar's prey. All this data is essential because observing a jaguar in the wild is rare. Sometimes the videos captured by these cameras are simply astonishing.
Oh, look at that.
Oh my
What's
God.
this? What is that? Is that a cow?
That's definitely a cow, and that looks like Cora.
Yeah, that's Cora. Amazing. This is amazing.
That cow's probably been dead for at least 2 or 3 days. You can see by all the flies and the entrails coming out.
Yeah.
You don't see that every day.
No.
These images are rare and valuable, but they also demonstrate the problems of coexistence between cattle farmers and forest predators, like the jaguar.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. Look at that.
That's a big jaguar.
Look at that. See the strength in his
Look at that.
mouth. Wow.
And there she goes.
Oh, amazing. That is awesome. That's great. That is awesome.
To avoid possible injury to an animal, it is important to check the traps every 4 hours, day or night.
Ready? Yep.
Capturing a jaguar is certainly not a simple task. They are very cunning animals, but we are patient.
Nothing, man.
Nothing.
Oh, but wait a second. Look at that. Hey, guys. There's a track.
Oh, yeah.
Let's try to look for more, probably more tracks.
Careful stepping over.
Yeah.
Trap's right here. Oh, there's another track over here. Looks like he came in this way and went right up to the trap and right over it.
Oh, yeah.
We missed.
It's really frustrating because it's days we've been trying. We thought we were getting anywhere, and then we saw that there was a track just nearby, and we missed out.
So close. Ah, that was close. This. Look at that.
Converting forest into agricultural land causes a significant loss of jaguar habitat. Less forested areas means less prey for forest predators such as the jaguar. So it is not surprising to see big cats attacking livestock. Coexistence between jaguars and livestock farmers has become a serious issue for the conservation of large forest predators.
We need actually to work really hard with people, and we need to work on agricultural landscapes and, you know, like all the private lands, because we need areas where the animals can move between protected areas with no harm, not causing conflict, not getting hunted. We have passed the paradigm of working only in protected areas. Now we need to focus on the areas that are not protected but are critical. Yeah.
The team has decided to widen its search area. Jose and Jan want to investigate every part of the farm to study the movement of the jaguars.
Yeah, this is a perfect place. Ah, look at there, look at there. Oh, yeah. Those are jaguar marks.
Wow, even there.
All the way up.
So that's a good spot for jaguar.
This is a perfect spot. Yeah. This is the place we should set up the camera. Yeah. Can you hold there, please? Yep. So usually we use this height because we can catch pretty much any mammal that comes in front of it. We always use these shady areas so we don't get sunlight direct to it.
Historically, native peoples lived within jaguar range for hundreds of thousands of years without a whole lot of problems. As populations of humans expanded, the parks sort of had to draw the lines and put fences up, and that's been the major problem. If you just fence these parks off, it's just not enough area, and you can't, especially in an area as small as Costa Rica, even 25% of the nation, put in some kind of protection just isn't enough because you have little blocks of habitat all over, none of which are really big enough to support jaguar.
I think seeing the farm from the air will give you a very good perspective of the work we're trying to do.
It is the biggest private forest reserve in Costa Rica held by one person. Over 25,000 acres. Wow. Yeah, you see the border of the farm, you see? That goes for many, 20-some kilometers that way.
So from here, everything to the right is the challenge that we face. Everything to the right here is what we need to talk about in terms of connectivity. You can see there's only little patches here and there of forest with agriculture, clear-cut areas for cattle and so forth. So each one of those has a sort of value system in terms of what use they can be for animals to go through. Pastures obviously has very little value in terms of a jaguar being able to cross. But some of these agroforestry areas you can see here, which is a mix of trees and sustainable agriculture types, is actually something a jaguar will pass through. So we don't necessarily need a continuous virgin forest from here to the coast. We just need a mix of forest types along with different types of more sustainable agriculture to connect it. And that's a lot easier to sell that to landowners instead of saying, oh, we need to take your land away and put it in conservation. What we need to do is teach people better ways to manage their land so that all the different species can survive here together.
Yeah.
The
problems of the rainforest are not only caused by deforestation, there are a host of other factors. For example, in the neighboring country, Panama, the habitats are also threatened.
Panama is known for its famous canal, which allows ships from around the world to pass quickly between the Pacific and Atlantic Oceans. Globalization and shipping are responsible for the ever-increasing spread of invasive foreign species. The arrival of a new animal, bacteria, or even fungus can often seriously upset the balance in ecosystems. For example, in Panama, frogs are disappearing. A mysterious microscopic fungus has invaded the country and is quickly killing off many of the rainforest's amphibians. The golden frog is the emblem of Panama, but you won't find any in the wild. It is now considered extinct, and only a handful of survivors remain in captivity. Biologist Edgardo Griffith is trying to understand the strange disease affecting Panama's amphibians. The team accompanied him to a river that he has studied extensively.
This is like prime golden frog habitat. This is like a very good breeding area because it's fast-moving water. The first time I came to this stream was in 2003, and I was impressed with so many frogs and large numbers of them. So in a way, to me sometimes was like, how can they, all manage to be in such a small stream and be successful and eat and breed in here? But it was just so many. I could spend hours, 10, 12 hours just sitting, getting recordings of the vocalization. The water, the stream, especially like in quiet pools, the whole bottom of the stream was moving because it was just loaded with tadpoles, and by seeing that, you knew that it was a healthy environment. Watch your head here.
And then what happened?
At the end of 2005, beginning of 2006, we knew about this fungus that was moving from the west, coming, eastward. And we knew that it was going to get here. And we anticipated that it was going to arrive around 2007, but the fungus arrived in 2006.
The Kirtid fungus arrived in Panama in 2006, and it was devastating. Frogs started dying at an alarming rate, and scientists were powerless to stop it.
Some scientists believe that the fungus dates back to the 1930s and 40s, when a species of African frog, Xenopus laevis, was used to develop pregnancy tests. At the time, scientists found that hormones in the urine of pregnant women caused egg laying in this species. It was an important and promising scientific discovery, and Xenopus laevis was sent to laboratories around the world. Though it's self-resistant to the disease, the frog was a carrier of the chytrid fungus. So the fungal pathogen was spread around the world. It mutated to a new form and invaded much of the tropical rainforest, killing most of the amphibians in its path. Found mostly in wetlands, the fungus acts like a sealant on amphibian skin. Because amphibians breathe partly through their skin, the chytrid fungus causes a series of metabolic problems. Eventually, the frog suffocates and dies. Some have survived, but many species have gone extinct. Today, the disease continues to wreak havoc around the world. And unfortunately, there are no effective cures for the epidemic.
It's crazy when you think about it. Edgardo has already identified 56 species of frogs in this simple little stream. Today, finding one is a challenge. And the golden frog of Panama, the very emblem of the country, is considered extinct everywhere in the wild.
The fungus kill 90% of the amphibian community, in some cases 100% of the individuals of certain species. Came, kill, stay, and at the same time it's moving. It's moving eastward towards the Darien or towards Colombia, but it's also coming up from South America.
We cut the sound of the stream, few insects. I mean, it's really quiet.
It's extremely quiet. For somebody that's been here before, that knows how noisy this stream was, frog-wise, it's remarkable not to be able to hear them, you know. And it's just, you know, it gets you. It gets you, and it's not just the feeling of, you know that the frogs are missing, but to know that they're missing is really sad, actually. And, you know, a lot of us goes away when the frogs are disappearing, you know, and I don't want people to feel that way. In this tree, I found what I call the last golden frog 2 years ago. It was at night, and she was sleeping up there. The animals that are left have no opportunity if we don't take them out of their environment and put them in captivity. And for as ugly as that sounds, is the only option. But if somebody can come up with another solution, I would be more than willing to try.
Captivity is the only option for the moment. So they built small, sterile laboratories where they housed the last forest specimens. It's a little crazy. Everything must be sterilized when you enter the lab, because just on the other side of the door is the fungus ready to kill. And it's also crazy at the same time to think that we've had to build modern Noah's Arks to save the last living examples of a species from the devastation brought on by humans.
The reason why we had to build this center was to reduce the risk of extinction of certain species of amphibians that were being affected by a fungal disease. So the only option for us was to go to the field and collect most of the time sick animals, and we brought them here and we applied treatments to help them get rid of the fungus. And the goal of this facility is to, you know, keep as many as we can in captivity until we can bring them to where they belong. Some of the animals that we have here are the last of their kind. They represent what's still alive of one particular species from around this area. Sad enough, you know. I'm a biologist. I used to be a field biologist. Now I think I'm like an extinction biologist. As you see here, we have a lot of tanks, hundreds of tanks, and Within those tanks, we have hundreds of plants and rocks. And one of our biggest challenge here is to make sure that the fungus that we know that's right outside that door doesn't get in here. So we have to disinfect constantly everything that comes into the facility to make sure that that fungus stays out there and not in this facility. The center in Panama City could be seen somehow as a Noah's Ark. Back then was God's will. Nowadays what's happening is because we are causing it. So we are the ones that have to come up with ideas, with Noah's Ark, and make sure that we bring those animals to where they belong, because they don't belong to a facility. They belong to this stream, you know.
The team scours the riverbanks for hours without finding a single frog. In the face of such carnage, scientists can do nothing. For the moment, they have no solution. They are merely trying to gain time, making every effort to capture and save the last individuals able to resist the disease.
There's one.
But it's a daunting task.
This is a male, Mylisca sila. This is a species of tree frog. Normally, we don't find them during the day like it was here or like in the stream, you know. You normally find them on the side, you know, side pools, then bank, in the bank. But this animal, I don't think that's in a, 100% in a healthy site, because a healthy frog of this species will be trying to escape, to run away in a very energetic way. Like, they're really strong based on, according to the size. Some of these animals might have a heavy infection and they still survive.
So after more than 5 hours, he's the only one that we found.
That's how bad it is. 5 years ago, we probably already seen, couple hundred, 300-400 frogs in, the 200 meters that we have walked. And it's how bad it is. It's how empty this place is, one single guy.
Could you see some effect already, into that ecosystem?
Well, yes. First of all, in the water, you see a lot more algae growing over the rocks, and also there are a lot of parasites and mosquitoes and things that can easily transmit diseases that we don't even know that they exist yet, because amphibians were there to keep all these things in check in a way.
So the entire equilibrium is broken.
It's totally broken. It's compromised. And, but by saying this, I'm not saying that it's too late. Because if we come together, because I know we can, to find a solution, I think that not just amphibians will be back, but everything else is related to the amphibians, including the forest.
Some regions, such as the lowlands of Panama, are less affected by the chytrid fungus. For scientists like Roberto Ibales, it is important to focus research in these areas to try and understand why some species are more resistant than others.
We arrived at the river at dusk and started our trek. We began to hear frogs, and it was a sign of hope for us. Of course, we didn't hear much, but already it was very encouraging.
What species it is?
That is a glass frog, and it's a male that is calling and has a egg mass.
just
Oh,
next
yeah.
to it. The males guard the eggs once they are laid on the leaves.
That's a tree frog.
It's a tree frog, yes. But they are called glass frogs because you can see the bones through their skin and internal organs.
At present, this fungi is found not only in the highlands but also in the lowlands of Panama. Yet we don't know much about what is happening with the amphibian populations in the lowlands.
Right here.
Yeah.
Good. Qué bueno.
This is a very interesting species because in places that are already infected or that have declined, you still find this species around. So this one might be one of the species that we need to focus more into it and see why is there survive, you know. And even though this is not endangered species, it's important to do this kind of surveys because it tells us if we have this fungus around this area. She might be infected, but she's not sick.
Yeah.
You know? All right, now we're gonna let this little guy go.
The export of organisms is a problem all over the world. And we know this because it isn't the first time we hear of it. Often organisms that are introduced into new areas become vehicles for pathogens or potential pathogens, harming the ecosystems into which they are introduced.
One morning at Edgardo's research center, the news was not very good. A specimen of a very rare species had died of an unknown cause. Obviously, captivity is not an ideal solution, but right now it is the only one scientists have found.
You know what happened? I think that because she was gravid and we didn't put a female in the tank. You know, the eggs got bad. We used to have 3 of these species, or at least 3 animals that look similar that were collected in the same stream. So this is a big, loss for us. What we're gonna do is try to get as much information from this animal as possible that we can use to make sure that the other 2 that we have stay alive and with us. And if they turn out to be a new species, they will be even more important than they are right now. We don't have a cure for this fungus. We can cure the animals once let's say I come here, I find a frog, I collect the frog, then I go to the lab and I give a treatment to that frog to help the frog to get rid of the fungus. So voila, yes, the frog is cured. But if I bring that frog back here, she will get reinfected and die. It's a fact. We've seen it many times. They are important. They are as important as an elephant, as a tiger, as the white shark. They all have a role in the environment, and they all belong to a place, and they are all part of something. So we need to make sure that amphibians continue doing the dirty job for us.
But I think there is still some hope. For example, in Costa Rica, where we work with jaguars, a species of frog is defying the prognostics of science.
One day, in the Talamanca Reserve, a child came up to Jose. In his hands, he held a strange little frog he had found near the river. The scientists were astonished.
Here are some marks. So that's the site? Yeah.
We have found a couple here, so we probably may be luck. There. Wow. It's a beautiful little frog.
Do you know when they discovered the fungus around here?
Yeah, actually, the last time it was 17 years ago. When they discovered this population, there was already declining, and they reported actually the extinction and disappearance of the frog in the river. And that's where they discovered the fungus here. It is officially recorded as extinct here and in all Costa Rica right now.
Do we know why this population is resilient?
That's exactly what we're studying right now, actually. This is a unique opportunity because we don't know if it's resilient or if it's tolerant. Maybe the fungus also changed. So this is like a live laboratory to study amphibian decline and why this population is recovering, as in many other parts that they disappear and they're gone.
So this frog, in a way, is bringing lots of hope.
It is lots of hope, because if this one is recovering, there's hope for other species in the country and in the neotropics to be recovering. And also this part is really important in amphibian diversity. So that means that if we found this population, probably, eventually, and hopefully we're gonna find other species that were totally and considered extinct in Costa Rica.
The rainforest is threatened from all sides, but I think it is important to understand the critical role played by each link of the food chain, each species in its ecosystem. The jaguar, for example, is what one would call an umbrella species, in that they control other populations that interact within the same ecosystem. The role of the jaguar is very important, just like that of the frog.
So, bad news.
Nothing?
Nothing. We checked all the traps again.
Well, that's life, I suppose.
Yep, we're obviously very concerned about what might be causing this. We're looking into it. I think the next steps for us are to put out some more camera traps and just re-survey the entire area, because we know how many individuals there are and which ones are around. We can actually go back and see which ones are missing from the population and maybe do an estimate of what's happened. Yeah. Even if we have all this conservation momentum behind us, it can just take a few people to come in and maybe snare some animals, which is what we're hearing, maybe using some of the bear snares that they use in the U.S. that are kill traps. It's depressing.
That's sad.
It's the reality we live in.
Yeah. No, nothing. No tracks. No tracks around.
We didn't see signs. We were on trails in an area we've been working for 5 years with very positive signs for jaguar and puma and a lot of their prey. We had no signs whatsoever that they were jaguar in that area. And because that's the low part of the farm that borders with the outside world, we're very concerned that maybe poachers have been coming in there and using some illegal snares to kill the jaguar.
It's early morning in the small village of the reserve, and the people are on alert. Rumors are circulating that poachers may have come into the reserve. Everyone lends a hand. Every effort must be made to protect the jaguars.
We actually have a picture here.
This is a picture that came off of Facebook.
Oh, that's sad. It's a shame. I mean, they're really rare, and this was just for fun, you know.
And these are young kids. I mean, look how young they are. These are the people we need to be reaching out to make sure that the next generation doesn't grow up like the one that we currently face. Yeah. Yeah. They can be teaching their parents, but I think if we can convince them that this is a problem and that they shouldn't be taking pride in posting pictures like this on Facebook, that maybe we can change the future for these species.
A private militia is preparing to go hunting for poachers. Here, conservation measures are not just expressed with words.
It's actually kind of worrying because there are some rumors of heavy poaching and hunting in the area, and in general in the country recently, so many jaguar deaths, and unfortunately that could be affecting the animals and the population in general. It's something really worrying, and we need to find out what's happening with the population.
The farm has had anywhere between 9 to 16 armed guards protecting the borders during night and day, and they've done a really good job at keeping out the poachers. It's a reality that we have to face, because if we don't do that, then we're going to suffer from the syndrome that the park suffers from, and that's this repeat poachers coming in over and over again and removing the animals from the park. On one side, we have this paradigm of having a set-aside reserves, but I don't think that's going to be the future of our planet. Setting aside reserves and parks that don't allow people to go in there is nice, and I think it has to be done in some areas, but we really need to start figuring out how to get these 9 million people into the forest so they can appreciate what's going on outside of the cities.
Bueno, ¿es aquí entonces? Sí, es aquí.
I know of at least 3 jaguars that have been killed just outside the property. They've been confirmed, but there are actually rumors of 11. That's a lot. Recently, there seems to be a growing business for jaguar skins, so we're trying to find out who is behind it. I was telling Fernando how sad I am, because it's as if they were threatening members of my own family. I don't know what we'll do with these hunters. It worries us. It's really frustrating. So many years of work, of love, of sacrifices, just to witness our jaguars being killed.
The introduction of invasive species, deforestation, loss of habitat. The menaces to the tropical forest are numerous, and quite frankly, we may be running out of time.
There's no time to feel sad about this situation, because that's not going to fix anything. I think we can work together mainly for the animals, but also for future generations, so that when they look back, they'll say, yeah, those guys knew that it was a problem and they came up with a solution, and they will be thankful for that.
I'm optimistic because I believe we can change things, and if people and human being realizes the importance, there's still something we can do, but we are right on the edge. If we protect jaguars, that means that we can protect a vast majority of biodiversity.
Fortunately, everywhere on the planet, there are scientists who are organizing to protect habitats. And I think we should heed them more, because these men and women really dedicate their lives to saving the planet's biodiversity. And they are all saying the same thing. If we organize, we are capable of great things. But it is important that we act, and that we act now.